Good evening to our viewers. The song titled Nagitimu Sri Lanka was launched on our sister network Citizen TV at 6:55 in the evening today. In case you missed it, we are happy to launch it to our English speaking audience as well. At this moment, this song signifies the unity and the strength that we need to overcome COVID-19. Nagitimu is let's rise up. So let's rise up. Nagitimu Sri Lanka.
Anduru wala pata atarin hinahi nakitimu Sri Lanka.
Biyasaka sangka badaka atarin nakitimu Sri Lanka.
Hitamu idiriya kawanna hama nakitimu Sri Lanka. Heta idiwana navalokaya hamuwe nakitimu Sri Lanka. Nagitimu Sri Lanka.
Nagitimu Sri Lanka. Kisidano venas minisak guna piripun rata Sri Lanka.
Mevan bhumiye urumaya apage rakagamu Sri Lanka. Idiriya gana ekwi අපසිතුවොත් රැකගන්නට ලංකා
දුරුවී ව්‍යසන අප ඉදිරියේ ඇති බාධක ජයගන්වා
නැගිටිමු ශ්‍රී ලංකා
අපි නැගිටිමු ශ්‍රී ලංකා மாற்றம் காணாத மனித பண்புகள் ஏந்திடும் ஸ்ரீலங்கா
நாட்டு மூட்டினம் உரிமை தேசத்தை காப்போம் இரு கண்ணான்.
Time for us to hope and pray and heal our motherland.
We must unite and march ahead. Arise Sri Lankans now.
Yelendada Sri Lanka. Rise up Sri Lanka.
Anduru wala pata atarin hinahi nagitimu Sri Lanka. Biyasaka sangka badaka atarin nagitimu Sri Lanka.
Hitamu idiriya kawanna hama nagitimu Sri Lanka.
Heta idiwana navaloka hamuwe nakitimu Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, rise up Sri Lanka. Nakitimu Sri Lanka, api nakitimu Sri Lanka.
Gammadda Nagitimu Sri Lanka.
Good evening to our viewers once again. Today too we are going to keep you updated about the latest information that we have regarding the COVID-19 situation in Sri Lanka. We have other news lined up for you as well. What are we looking at in terms of the news rundown? We are going to talk to you about the number of patients that have been reported in the country. As you are aware, we have 151 total number of cases here in Sri Lanka. We are also going to talk to you about several concessions that have been announced by the government and with the central bank. There has been the foreign exchange control regulations have been relaxed. Central bank requests that foreign currency be brought into the country. We are also looking at the mental health of the people who are staying at home as a result of the curfew that has been imposed. Shamir Rasuldeen will be joining us with a special interview as well. The political situation in the country also seems to be happening at the moment. Once again, we are going to talk to you about that as well. And conspiracies in terms of the coronavirus. There are several conspiracy theories as well. We are going to talk to you about what is true and what is false. We are going to talk to you about all of these and more on our news bulletin today. Now, as we mentioned, there are several key incidents that you need to be aware of that happened today. Judges of the Colombo High Court today rejected more than 90% of applications filed with court seeking bail under any condition. Among those who filed bail applications are incarcerated and remanded drug offenders.
121 such applications were taken up at 5 separate high courts in Colombo. Senior counsel appearing for the Attorney General filed objections at the onset, and taking them into consideration, the High Court judges rejected all the bail applications filed by high-profile heroin traffickers. Deputy Solicitor General Dilip Piris pointed out a conspiracy was in place to secure bail for high-profile heroin traffickers and other violent criminals. He stressed it is the responsibility of court to assist the Attorney General to defeat and crush such conspiracies. DSG Dilip Piris went on to note there were no reports of COVID-19 from prisons in Sri Lanka. Therefore, the ideal quarantine facilities are in fact prisons. DSG Piris said at a time when the government is making great efforts to combat the spread of the pandemic, serious health risks do arise when applications of a small group of 120 are taken up in court as urgent matters. He stressed it is not practical to engage in court proceedings wearing masks, and added that if there was a single person in the courtroom infected with the virus, the number of infections would multiply by tomorrow. He further questioned if court could assure that such a situation would not occur. The High Court judges said, following the Attorney General's request to postpone sittings, the Judicial Services Commission had informed court to conduct proceedings in a safe manner. In a counter statement, High Court Judge Aditya Patabandige questioned the DSG if the Attorney General viewed the judges of the High Court as little children. In response, DSG Piris said he hoped court would pay due consideration to the facts presented on behalf of the Attorney General on the safety of the general public at large. The High Court judge in response said he understands what the Attorney General says. However, as a court is bound to follow the instructions of the Judicial Service Commission, bail applications would have to be entertained. Today and tomorrow were declared as special sittings following a recommendation made by the committee appointed by the President to look into the possibility of granting bail to those who were remanded for failing to meet bail conditions.
At the outset, I informed you that there are developments in terms of the political arena as well, and developments in terms of the general election. A short while ago, we were able to confirm that the National Elections Commission has requested President Secretary that the President should seek a determination from the Supreme Court concerning holding the upcoming general elections, as the elections could not be held, and reconvene the Parliament as per the provisions of the Constitution given the current situation in the country. Now, as per the provisions of the Constitution, the general election must be held within a duration of 3 months, and accordingly the Parliament should be convened on the 1st of June. The chairman of the NEC, writing to the President Secretary, says that with the rise in COVID-19 cases in the country during the past 24 hours, along with the expert opinions of health officials, it has been understood that the situation cannot be contained by the month of April. Now, the Elections Commission has also observed when it convened yesterday that thereby the general elections could not be held by the end of May as suggested by the provisions of the Constitution, and as such Parliament cannot convene within 3 months after it was dissolved on the 2nd of March this year. The Elections Commission therefore recommends the President to seek a determination from the Supreme Court regarding this matter concerning the parliamentary polls. Keeping you updated about more local news happening here at home, the All Ceylon Independent Grama Niladhari Association had called for a media briefing today.
There are no programs in place by the government to ensure the safety of Grama Niladharis in the country. This is a risky task. These people who engage daily with the general public are doing this with minimum or no protection. Various activities such as collecting money and obtaining signatures had to be done by the Grama Niladharis, going against all health and quarantine regulations. Officials in many divisional secretariats were unable to provide Grama Niladharis with even the most minimal forms of protection such as face masks, gloves and sanitizer. On the 31st of last month, another circular has been issued by the Prime Minister's office, completely contradictory to the initial one. The issue on how we are to act arises at this point. Through this circular, a political representative has been appointed into the committee as a local government representative. These circulars contradict each other. We cannot accept this circular. Do not try to politicize this at a time where there is a pandemic in the country. As Grama Niladaris, we have not been given any directives as to how we should act. We are fed up of our duties. When different circulars are issued day by day, we are faced with the dilemma. Issue information to the media when there is a proper plan in place.
The central bank today appealed to all Sri Lankans, including expatriates, to bring foreign currency into the country and deposit savings and other funds in foreign currency during the next 3 months. Governor of the central bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman, said those deposits will be accepted without any hindrance, will be exempted from exchange control regulations and taxes, and will be protected under banking secrecy provisions.
In a letter appealing to expatriate Sri Lankans, Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman, said foreign currency deposits in the banking system will help authorities to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. The letter read, quote, "We also guarantee the future convertibility of these deposits into foreign currency whenever you decide to do so," unquote. The letter added that such deposits will be accepted without any hindrance. The central bank chief added that all forex remittances will be exempted from exchange control regulations and taxes and will be protected under banking secrecy provisions. He pointed out that the country welcomes deposits in foreign currencies from donors, charity organizations and well-wishers in addition to expatriate workers. This appeal has been made in keeping with the decision taken by the government yesterday to suspend all restrictions on foreign currency inflows into the country.
While there may be differing views on the suspension of foreign currency restrictions in order to show up forex reserves, the innovative, pragmatic strategies taken by the government can be commended. However, this should not be used to launder money, which will attract global scrutiny and affect Sri Lanka negatively on the long run. Saudi Arabia was amongst the first nations that came out with a creative idea such as this, where members of the Saudi royal family who had allegedly laundered money outside of the state were placed under house arrest and asked to remit up to 70% of their funds back to Saudi Arabia in exchange for their freedom. This was innovative by Saudi Arabia because without taking any drastic steps, the necessary opportunity was being given for those monies to not only be returned back to the treasury, but also to be officially put to use in the affairs of the state and strengthen the nation's depleted coffers at the time. As the Sri Lankan Central Bank Governor's appeal notes that all restrictions will be suspended in view of monies being brought into Sri Lanka, it may be pertinent to bring in some control to ensure that funds that do not go through a stringent clearance and approval process is fixed in place for a period of time by the central bank. The recommended period of time could be anywhere from 15 to 20 years, as the country would not be able to remit the funds before a reasonable time period. It is also important to note that Sri Lanka was at one time placed on the International Money Laundering Grey List and was removed just last year. It must be kept in mind that Sri Lanka is taking a risk by deregulating foreign exchange remittance to this extent, unless and otherwise controlled very carefully by the central bank.
Now, the retired public servants received their monthly pension payment today. The payment was delivered to their home or by providing safe transport facilities for the senior citizens to reach their respective banks.
The Postal Department delivered the payment to senior citizens in Kegol.
මේ පෙන්ෂන් එක අපිට ලැබෙන්න තිබ්බේ 3 වෙනිදා. නමුත් අද 2 වෙනිදාදී කෑගල්ල තැපැල් කන්තෝර විසින් අපේ ගෙදර දොරකඩටම ගෙනත් දීලා දෙනවා.
Pensioners of Lahugala, Ampara 2 were seen making their way to the banks in the area this morning. In some areas, the pension was given to them through mobile banking as well. Senior citizens of Polgahavela were provided with transport facilities to the banks by SLTB buses under the protection of the army. Those who were to receive pensions in Baddegama and Agilia were given transportation to banks in the area to obtain their monthly pension. Senior citizens who arrived at the Madagama town in Bibile were afforded the opportunity to purchase dry rations at a concessionary rate by the Madagama Pradeshya Sabha. The Madirigiriya post office delivered monthly pensions for senior citizens in 6 villages. Steps were taken to transport pensioners safely by SLTB buses to obtain their pension payments in Narammala. These were the procedures followed by the army to deliver the monthly pension to senior citizens in the north and the east. Pensioners in Matara received their monthly pension when it was delivered to them by the Matara post office. Others who were to receive their monthly pensions from the banks were provided transport by the army. Steps were taken by the postal department to deliver the monthly pension to senior citizens in Hinguraggoda, while others were provided with transportation to arrive at the city and obtain their monthly pension. Senior citizens in Kakirawa made their way to the banks in the area to obtain their monthly pension. Pensioners residing in Nittambo and Mirigama arrived in the city to obtain their monthly pension payment as well.
Now, the decision reached to provide additional concessions to the general public was further explained today.
Discussions were held with the President on a cabinet paper to provide an allowance of 5,000 rupees, which is not a loan, to 4 million people who have been affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. The group receiving this allowance includes pensioners, disabled people, people with special needs, self-employed people and Samurdhi beneficiaries. There are roughly about 3.1 million people among the elderly population of Sri Lanka. We have identified about 560,000 members of the elderly community who are eligible to receive this concession. We are making preparations to provide this 5,000 rupee concessionary payment in the month of April. The elders who have received 2,000 rupees will be given an additional 3,000 rupees, while the elders on the waiting list will be given 5,000 rupees. 150,000 people have received the 3,000 rupee allowance this month. Thereby, a sum of 750 million will be distributed among them. You don't have to collect this amount from the divisional secretariat. We will deliver it to your home through the Grama Seva officer. Steps have been taken to provide the pension of 5,000 rupees this month for retired farmers and members of the fishing community. Steps have also been taken to ensure that the money will be delivered to the people who are entitled to the sum through the postal department. This money will be delivered on the 6th, the 7th and 8th of this month. A program will be launched in Sri Lanka by the Ministry of Agriculture, as there could be a shortage in many food items imported from foreign countries in the future. Under this program, the Ministry of Agriculture will distribute saplings, seeds and fertilizers.
Well, those were the decisions, some of the decisions that the government has taken thus far. An all-party meeting was held at Temple Trees today to discuss the COVID-19 outbreak in the country. The meeting was chaired by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa.
The meeting began at 10:30 this morning. Former President Maithripala Sirisena, former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, former Speaker Karu Jayasuriya, leader of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya Sajith Premadasa and representatives of other political parties attended the discussion. The meeting was also attended by Basil Rajapaksa, the chairman of the Presidential Task Force established to combat COVID-19 in Sri Lanka, the commander of the army, acting Inspector General of Police, and the Director General of Health Services. We have made plans to treat 2,000 patients. According to a prediction, we will reach a peak on the 4th of April at 137 cases. If about 5% further leaks, by the 7th of April, we will have a peak of 167 cases. By April 14th, we could have 340 cases. And afterwards, if the measures taken are relaxed, it could rise to about 1,400 cases. Then we cannot predict when it will peak and how much it will be. The meeting that focused on the current situation in the country lasted for about 2.5 hours. A party leaders meeting was held. It was very successful. All the party leaders spoke very highly of the program implemented by the government headed by the president. It seems as if everyone except for parliamentarians have been given concessions.
I requested that this test, which takes place in order to identify coronavirus patients, to be expanded. Currently, around 150 to 200 tests are done daily in the country. Government statistics show that 3,007 tests have been conducted overall. I also pointed out that there is a shortage of personal protective equipment for those who are in the front line of the battle against coronavirus, including health officials, security officers, and other officials. Not only the government, we too have a responsibility to avoid those shortcomings. We should provide support in a practical manner, while the government should intervene and provide a clear solution to this shortage. This applies when providing relief and aid to the people as well. I recommended that the government should act in a manner to minimize these shortcomings. I also suggested for a group of state officials who have not been politicized to be appointed by the government to carry out the process beyond party lines instead of politicians being involved in this task. I also suggested the implementation of a state program to avoid a food shortage in the country from occurring. The same was suggested with regard to the shortage of medicine. Further, I made a recommendation to the effect where not only state pharmacies but private pharmacies too can provide medicine to the people. I made 5 such recommendations during the meeting. We intend to provide a practical solution to the shortages persisting at hospitals through the Janasuva program and to ease the situation in whatever way we can. We are ready to implement all this.
Meanwhile, former Governor, Attorney at Law, President's Counsel, Maitri Gunaratne says at this crisis situation, the Parliament should be convened and money should be allocated constitutionally till the end of the spread of COVID-19.
Usually, I don't agree with what M.A. Sumandiran says, but I do agree with him on this matter regarding convening the parliament. The president only has the authority over money till the 30th of this month. He will have no authority thereafter. He will not have the authority to withdraw money according to his whims and fancies. Then he has to convene parliament and seek its approval to extend this time limit. The president made a promise when swearing in that he will protect the constitution of the country. Here he is clearly going against the constitution. Therefore, we ask the president to convene parliament and obtain the approval to withdraw money. There is no need to hold a general election until COVID-19 stops spreading. They wanted to hold the general election because they wanted to obtain a 2/3 majority in parliament. It was because of that reason this was rushed. Till parliament is convened and steps are taken to eradicate the coronavirus entirely, this country is not in need of a general election.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවක් මැතිවරණයක් මේ රටට අවශ්‍ය නැහැ කියන එක අපි පැහැදිලිව ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න ඕනේ.
Former Governor President's Counsel Maitri Gunaratne was referring to a statement made by former parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran. This is what former parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran said earlier.
No legal provision has been utilized for declaration of curfew. The President has been handling this matter with the task force and the military in ways that have received commendation from various quarters, and we too have given our support and expressed our satisfaction over several steps that have been taken. The Parliament in the Maldives has gone online and it's meeting without physically coming together at any particular point. We can also have resort to things like that. In any case, even for the first meeting, a meeting can be held in the chamber. Not all 225 need to meet. There is only a vote of account that was passed covering the period up to 30th April. That money is also not sufficient to deal with this issue even until the 30th of April, and on a vote and account no supplementary budgets can be passed. Such situations should not happen, and we must be governed by the rule of law, and for that to happen Parliament must meet and make financial provisions.
Meanwhile, former parliamentarian Iran Wickramaratne tweeted saying President should reconvene parliament and get everyone's support in minimizing economic consequences of the fallout of the COVID-19. If not, he runs the risk of turning a health epidemic into an economic knockdown and a humanitarian crisis of unforeseen proportions. I have updated you about the political and economic situation in the country thus far. Let me now draw your attention to the updates we have with regard to COVID-19 in Sri Lanka. One patient passed away last night after being tested positive for COVID-19. Meanwhile, with the detection of 4 new COVID-19 cases in the country, the total number of confirmed infections rose to 150.
A 73-year-old man passed away last night after testing positive for COVID-19. This brings the total number of coronavirus-related deaths in Sri Lanka to 3. The daughter, son-in-law and grandson of the deceased were admitted to the Institute of Infectious Diseases. The Colombo Municipal Council said that 2,000 people in the area were later placed under quarantine. Thereby, the housing complex the deceased was residing in and 18 other housing complexes in the area have been isolated. Speaking about the patient who passed away last night, this patient first displayed symptoms of the virus 10 days ago. This patient had sought medical treatment from the National Hospital. On the 20th, he had purchased medicine from a regional pharmacy. We have quarantined the doctor who treated this patient, her husband and the entire staff. This person had entered the Sri Javadanapura hospital the day before yesterday. He had sought medication for a cough, cold and respiratory difficulty he was suffering from. This person had not revealed the true details about his son-in-law. The issue here is the fact that many people had come to visit this person who tested positive for COVID-19 while he was sick at home. Many people had helped them to take this man to the hospital twice. We quarantined all of them in their homes. The final rites of the deceased were conducted this afternoon. A group of area residents objected when the final rites were being conducted at the Udumulla cemetery, alleging that the crematorium at the cemetery did not function properly. The virus is destroyed at about 30 degrees Celsius, but here we increase the temperature to about 1200 degrees, so there will be no issue at all. We can guarantee that. The Akurana town continued to remain under lockdown after a few people tested positive for COVID-19 in the area. The army distributed essential goods to the residents of the area today. Meanwhile, 200 people who associated a person who tested positive for COVID-19 in Pannala Beruwala were placed under quarantine yesterday. The public health inspector of the Kalutara district, R.G. Singhabahu, said the group that was quarantined were residents in close proximity to the residence of the person who was tested positive for the virus. Meanwhile, security was beefed up in Atalugama in Bandaragama, which is already under lockdown after 5 people in the area tested positive for COVID-19. 3 new coronavirus patients were identified at the Palali Quarantine Center in Jaffna yesterday. A procedure is in place to treat patients that have been discovered in Beruwala. As of last evening, 226 people who had associated the patients were directed to the Punani quarantine facility by the Sri Lanka Army. We have taken into consideration the time they have spent at home and how many have stayed at their homes. According to the information we have received from our intelligence units, health officials and the Army, more than 300 people have associated the deceased. 2 of his relatives have been confirmed to have contracted the virus. Plans are underway to send more than 300 of those people to be quarantined.
නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථානයකට යැවීමට කටයුතු සූදානම් කරමින් සිටිනවා. අද
We have received information that people are gathering to the place where the cremation is taking place and where the body of the deceased is being taken. According to health officials, the final rites of those who pass away from this virus have to be conducted immediately. and people should not gather at these places. I would like to specially mention that if people are continuing to gather at places like these, action will be taken against them under quarantine laws. Action can be taken against them under the quarantine law and the criminal law of Sri Lanka.
නිරෝධායන රීති මෙන්ම ලංකාවේ අපරාධ නීතිය යටතේ කටයුතු කරනවා.
Let me take you through the numbers of the total number of COVID-19 cases that have been reported in the country. We had 5 patients being discovered today or identified today. Thereby, the number of active cases in the country stands at 151 at the moment, with 5 patients being identified thus far in the day. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the Director General of the World Health Organization, spoke and expressed the following views at a press conference this morning.
As we enter the 4th month since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm deeply concerned about the rapid escalation and global spread of infection. Over the past 5 weeks, we have witnessed a near exponential growth in the number of new cases, reaching almost every country, territory, and area. The number of deaths has more than doubled in the past week. In the next few days, we will reach 1 million confirmed cases and 50,000 deaths.
Over the past few days, we have been bringing the opinions of experts talking about certain key information that the general public should be aware of and topics that are pertinent, keeping in mind the COVID-19 situation in the country. Today too, Shamir Rasuldeen joins us from the newsroom.
Thank you very much, Chaturanga. Today on the show, we have Dr. Sajeevan Amarasinghe, Secretary of the Sri Lanka College of Psychiatrists, to talk about mental health versus COVID-19. Stay connected, stay with News First. We will join you right now. Dr. Sajeevan, there is widespread anxiety amongst the community, particularly after the 3rd victim was reported, and the number of those infected with the virus is now increasing, stands at 151. How can you cope with a situation of this sort, Doctor?
Given the situation in the world and in Sri Lanka, this pandemic, a certain amount of anxiety is inevitable. And I would say, I'm not surprised that most people are feeling anxious. In fact, feeling a little anxious can be protective, because you will protect yourself. And if some people who are not anxious at all are going out and maybe infecting themselves and others. But we need to ensure that the anxiety does not go out of hand.
Now, many have not had severe problems with their mental health, Dr. Sajeevan, before. But when coronavirus hit Sri Lanka, bang, the problem began. People now find themselves struggling, constant sinking feeling in their stomach, difficulty falling asleep, crippling mental health and physical fatigue from nowhere. Why is this, Doctor?
Yeah, what you describe are the symptoms of anxiety. Right, so sometimes in addition they might be getting palpitations, difficulty in breathing. Sometimes they might get, they might be feeling edgy all the time, and they may be irritable, and these are symptoms of anxiety. And as I said, we can limit it to some extent. A certain amount of anxiety is normal, but if it is going overboard, there are certain things that we can do to control this. And one of the things is perhaps do not worry about things that are beyond our control. And a lot of people, about the pandemic, the numbers that are dying and the number of cases, these things are beyond our control. And if we spend all our time surfing the internet, looking at the social media, we will be feeling very anxious. So what I suggest to do is to control the time you spend on news, reading about the pandemic and the illness.
No, but Dr. Sajeevan, what you're saying right now is staying informed is important. But mental health experts like you suggest otherwise. You all say that obsessively checking on news is also not the way to go about, isn't it?
Definitely, we need to stay informed. We need to get the facts right. And one cause of anxiety is these myths that are flying around in social media, all kinds of stories about the way it's spread. So we need to get the facts right, look at a proper website, the WHO or the Ministry of Health, or a very reliable source. But we should not spend all our time looking at the news. We should limit the time that we spend looking at the news, and we should get back and structure our day. And we should try to get back to our hobbies and leisure activities as much as possible. Maybe do a little bit of exercise. I know it's cooped up inside the house, but we can do a little gardening, exercise at the house, talk with your family. And also, while we are being physically distanced, now we talk about social distancing, but I feel it's a misnomer. What we need is a physical distancing, right? We can stay socially connected through the phones, right? Through social media apps. We can actually talk to friends and relatives and try to spend your day in a productive way.
Dr. Sajay, there is a rise in domestic violence, and in countries like China, the divorce rates have hiked up, and you expect when people are staying at home things to be good and the relationship to be much more stronger than ever, but this is not the case.
Yes, the possibility, domestic violence and divorce, they've already all been there. And how can divorce and domestic violence increase during this time? One possibility is that, when the family is at home, all family members are tensed up. They're all nervous and tensed up. You become irritable more than usual. And sometimes you get angry for things that you don't get angry usually. So in this situation, there can, domestic arguments can flare up. So what I suggest is that you need to understand this. And if one person is getting angry, the other person needs to understand, okay, he's tense these days, and take a step back and talk about it maybe when things are a little bit settled and calmer.
It's important to give in.
Yes, I think one person has to, if both get angry at the same time, there's going to be a flare up. So if one is angry, the other person needs to step back a little bit and maybe wait till the other person calms down, because you need to understand that everybody is edgy and nervous at this time.
Dr. Sajay, children are the future prospects of this island nation, and this is not a normal lockdown. This is a lockdown due to a pandemic. They're at home. What is the advice you have for the parents to look after their children in a situation of this sort? Because at the end of the day, children are being pressurized a lot at home these days.
I think the first thing is we need to educate the children. We need to tell them age-appropriate manner what this is about, right? And tell them the true facts about the illness. Tell them that the mortality is not as high as people think. It's only 3% of the people die. So we need to reassure them and educate them as much as possible. Secondly, we need to give them more attention and more of your time. This is actually a golden opportunity for us to spend more time with the children. Thirdly, we need to structure their day. They have stopped classes, they have stopped their school. So we need to structure their day. Give some time for everything. Specific time for studying, a specific time for watching television, and also maybe arrange some games and recreation at home.
Dr. Sajay, with the numbers rising now, people generally are of the opinion that they are next, that they are going to be engulfed with the virus next, and they are the victim next. What is the message you have for individuals of that sort?
That's what I told you. There are certain things we can't control, but what can we do? Just concentrate on things that we can control. So we can wash our hands, we can keep the physical distance, so we can do what we can to prevent us getting it. Certain things are beyond our control.
Dr. Sajay, we've been discussing this right throughout this show over the last few days, the social stigma surrounding COVID-19, people hiding facts, not coming out and saying, I have the symptoms. They wait until the last minute to seek medical advice, and then invariably infect the others as well around them. What is the process that we should adhere to? Is this as bad as something else that we don't want to divulge information about? This is COVID-19. It's very generic now across the world.
Yeah. This is a very dangerous trend. If people are going to stay secret, not come out with their symptoms, it's going to be a very dangerous trend. So how do we address this? I think we need to break the stigma, we need to give the facts correctly, the true scientific facts about the illness. The mortality is not as bad as people think. It's around 3% overall, and for the younger age groups, much less. And the second thing, I think we should not criminalize the victims. Now that is something that is bad that is happening, especially not the mainstream media, the social media. I mean, we have seen a few people who have done, dodged quarantine, not told their symptoms, but the vast majority have not done that. So we should understand that this is an illness and that these people have not done any wrong. Because if we create a situation where people hide their symptoms or scared to say that they are ill, that is going to be very dangerous. And I think one way where we can break the stigma, I think we have seen in the Great Britain, we saw the Prime Minister coming out and tell that he's got coronavirus, and that really normalizes it. And even in Sri Lanka, in fact, one of our dear friends, a very famous physician, he came out on social media and said that I've got coronavirus, and then he made another post that I've got better. So that sort of thing, where a famous person comes out and tells that he's got ill, it actually will help to break the stigma.
So what you're trying to say is, Doctor, the community at large should not shoot the messenger because they don't like the message.
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
What is the way forward? What is the warning you have for the public in a situation of this sort, Doctor? Do you think we have to fear, or do you think that we are on track and Sri Lanka is getting better? What is the message you have?
There's a lot of uncertainty. And as I said, fear, a certain amount of fear is inevitable. But I think we need not worry about things that it's beyond our control. The government is handling the issue. So far, Sri Lanka is still, there's no community spread. The cases are still limited to households, family clusters. There's no evidence of community spread. So hopefully, with all the measures that the government has put in, hopefully we should be able to control it at this level.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sajeevan Amarasinghe, for joining us this evening on the show. That was Dr. Sajeevan Amarasinghe, Secretary of the Sri Lanka College of Psychiatrists. The greatest discovery is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes and mind. It's back to the newsroom.
Thank you, Shamir. Now, in keeping with the same topic of mental health, we found this particular clip on social media and thought of sharing it with you.
Highest rate of increase in the world, and our numbers.
Health workers diagnosed with the virus represent 14% of all those cases.
And unemployment claims are higher than they have ever been in our history.
If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. I've been a Navy SEAL for 36 years. Every morning, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. The corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all. At times, it will test you to your very core. It will be painful. It will be discouraging. At that darkest moment of the mission is a time when you need to be calm, and your inner strength must be brought to bear. If you want to change the world, you must be your very best in the darkest moments. But changing the world can happen anywhere, and anyone can do it. If I have learned anything in my time traveling the world, it is the power of hope. The power of one person. One person can change the world by giving people hope. Start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you step up when the times are the toughest, lift up the downtrodden, and never ever give up, if you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better. But the question is, what will the world look like after you change it?
With that, let me draw your attention back to some of the local updates we have for you. The advance payments for Samurdhi loans face several issues today.
Pensioners who visited the Samurdhi Bank in Bhatiyagama Kantale said that officers at the bank imposed various conditions. Bank officers were said to have informed the customers that loans would only be granted to those already having money deposited in their bank accounts.
We stayed at home for about 20 days now without any work. We do not have food to eat. I have filled these forms and done everything else. The chairman and the secretary won't sign these. When we ask them, they tell us to go ask from the president. Why is the bank withholding the advance payments to us? Why are they mixing these up with the loans that we have taken? These people don't have food to eat. We have 3 to 4 children. How long did we have to wait to get this 5,000 rupees? They asked us to come in the morning and then they asked us to come in the evening. We came here although it is not easy for us to walk.
Meanwhile, the Samurdhi Association in Madagama Bibile had taken steps to deliver the money due to the Samurdhi beneficiaries to their residences. This was done in the villages of Pitadeniya, Bakiniyavala and Amune Kandura. Samurdhi beneficiaries at the Nocheyagama Divisional Secretariat took steps to provide the loan to Samurdhi beneficiaries even if they did not have any balance in their account. This is what the Director General of the Samurdhi Authority had to say. Around 1,258,000 people have received this concession. We have further identified 633,000 families who are entitled to this. The selections are being done by a team including the Samurdhi Development Officers, the Gramaniladari Officers, Economic Development Officers, Agrarian Development Officers and public representatives in charge of the area. We will make the payments to these selected individuals through the network of Samurdhi banks. The Secretary to the Prime Minister and the Secretary to the President has issued a circular in this regard. We have also been preparing a similar circular regarding the matter and we will issue that afterwards.
Another important question everyone has in their minds is the update with regard to the curfew situation in the country. Police curfew continue to be in effect across the island. The public are advised that the police curfew will remain in effect until further notice in the following areas, and those areas are Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara, Putlam, Kandy and Jaffna districts. In the other 19 districts, curfew will be lifted at 6 AM on the 6th of this month.
Police curfew continued to be in effect across the island. Police curfew will remain in effect until further notice in the Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara, Putlam, Kandy and Jaffna districts. With the imposition of curfew, travelling between districts has been completely banned except for essential services. The police and the army set up roadblocks and conducted inspections across the island. Vehicles travelling along roads in the Jayala town were inspected. All the shops in the town were shut down. According to our correspondent, police permission had only been granted for those providing essential services to travel along the roads in Galenbindunuava. Security forces had quarantined the area. Curfew regulations were strictly imposed in Galle, according to our correspondent in the area. The police, Air Force, Navy and Army had set up roadblocks and inspected vehicles. This was the situation in the Badulla town. Pensioners who arrived at the town to collect their pensions were the only people who visited the town.
විශ්‍රාමිකයින් සඳහා
Curfew passes will not be issued to pensioners when concessions are being provided to them. They can use their identity card or any other document as their curfew pass. But if they use it falsely and engage in other activities, and also those who abuse the curfew passes issued to them will be dealt with strictly by the police. During the past 24 hours, we arrested the highest number of people for violating curfew regulations since the time it was first imposed. In the 24 hours that ended as at 6 a.m. today, we had arrested 1,017 suspects. They will not be released on bail. Also, their vehicles will not be returned to them. These vehicles must be decontaminated, and we hope to take further steps in this regard after they are produced in court.
ඒ සම්බන්ධව තවත් පියවර ගැනීමට අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා අධිකරණයට ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමෙන් අනතුරු.
The police media spokesperson convened a media briefing today, and he spoke about the investigations into the April 21st attacks.
The investigations into the April 21st attacks are being conducted successfully under a new phase. Recently, we were able to arrest the person who provided facilities for the bomber at the Zion Church to transport the explosives. Through investigations conducted subsequent to this arrest, 2 more suspects have been arrested. One suspect was arrested from Gotatua. It has been revealed that he is the person who coordinated and provided transport to the bomber at the Cinnamon Grand Hotel. We have arrested another suspect from Mattakulia. It was revealed that he had provided transport to the bomber who attacked the St. Anthony's Church in Kochikade. Also, through these investigations, we will be taking steps to arrest a few more suspects. Based on the statements provided by these suspects, new connections regarding the suspects that we could not previously question regarding the attack are being revealed. We believe that we will be able to conclude these investigations soon. All of these attacks were linked. We will be able to identify who were behind these attacks and who coordinated them. We have already received vital information in this regard.
ඒ පිළිබඳව සාර්ථක තොරතුරු කිහිපයක් මේ වෙන විට අනාවරණය වෙමින් තිබෙනවා.
There was a video claiming that when people were flown from Italy to Ethiopia, the people were shot as they had started running after getting off the aircraft. However, the visuals are from a hostage rescue exercise back in 2019. There was another belief that a person who can hold his breath for 10 seconds has not been affected by the virus. However, that too is false. There was an audio recording stating that the sun is releasing a new wave of a new virus. However, scientists have confirmed that the sun does not emit a new wave. Further, there was a belief that the virus can be killed in 12 hours. However, it is important to understand that the virus can remain in the environment from 3 to 9 days based on the area. There was another image with many coffins showing that there is no place to keep coffins in Italy. Although that picture was taken in Italy, it was taken in 2014 and shows coffins of those who had drowned from a ship.
Before drawing your attention to the world situation with regard to COVID-19, another important message from DIG Ajit Rohana. He says there are various messages circulating that the Disaster Management Act is going to be imposed at midnight tonight. DIG Ajit Rohana said that this is false and stern action will be taken against those who circulate false information and hate speech. I too personally have received this thread of messages on WhatsApp and other social media platforms. There are various messages circulating that the Disaster Management Act is going to be imposed at midnight tonight. DIG Ajit Rohana says that that is not accurate, or rather that this is false, and there is no such decision to enact the Disaster Management Act, and stern action will be taken against those who circulate false information. Let's now take a look at the global situation with regard to COVID-19.
Officials across the country have continued tightening restrictions to try and slow the spread of the virus. Russia sent the United States medical equipment to help combat the coronavirus pandemic. A public relations coup for Russian President Vladimir Putin after he discussed the crisis with United States President Donald Trump. Russian President Vladimir Putin will deliver a special address to the nation for the second time. In his last address, Putin declared a non-working week across the country in a bid to tackle the outbreak. Officials announced that the number of confirmed cases in Russia jumped by 771 in just 24 hours, bringing the total to 3,548. Some, however, fear the situation is far worse in the country. New South Wales Police transported health professionals and an independent medical team to the Ruby Princess cruise ship to start assessing crew on board for the coronavirus. New South Wales Police Commissioner said that between the cruise ships docked in state waters, there were around a total of 8,500 crew members that needed to be checked. Meanwhile, scientists in Australia have begun testing 2 potential coronavirus vaccines in quote-unquote milestone lab trials. Australia's National Science Agency will assess if the vaccines work and if they would be safe for humans.
Now we have another piece of information that we were able to confirm a short while ago. The 4th COVID-19 death in Sri Lanka was reported a short while ago. According to the Department of Government Information, the deceased is a 58-year-old male who was receiving treatment at the Colombo IDH hospital. The 4th COVID-19 death was reported in Sri Lanka a short while ago. On that, health officials in the United States who are in the front line in the battle against COVID-19 have taken to social media to express their opinion regarding substandard working conditions and lack of personal protective equipment. One such health official, a nurse, uploaded a video on social media expressing the following.
I quit my job today. I went into work and I was assigned to a COVID patient on an ICU unit that has been converted to a designated COVID unit. None of the nurses are wearing masks, not even surgical masks, in the hallways when they're giving report to each other. I had my own N95 mask. I told my manager, I understand we're short on supplies, but let me protect myself. Let me feel safe. I have family that I have to come home to, and the way things are looking, this isn't going to get any better. America is not prepared, and nurses are not being protected.
That was a video posted by Al Jazeera of a nurse in the United States of America. With that, we bring to a close this edition of the Prime Time English News Bulletin. And I remind you to stay safe. I'm Saturang Hapuarachi.